All right, Marine, buckle up because today we're diving deep into MCDP 1 to 3,
Ooh, yeah, one of the good ones.
and we're zeroing in on Chapter 7, Exploiting Success and Finishing.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. This isn't just about winning a firefight or a battle. This is about ending the enemy's ability to fight back, period.
You hit the nail on the head. The doctrine emphasizes relentless action, Marine. It's not enough to just gain an advantage. You have to exploit it every chance you get.
So it's like in boxing, landing a punch is good,
But it's just the start.
right? You got to keep the pressure on, go for the knockout.
Exactly. Every little advantage you gain,
Every crack in their defense.
every moment of hesitation, you got to use it.
So thinking like a chess grandmaster, always a few moves ahead.
That's the idea. Now, the chapter gives a great example. Erwin Rommel in World War I.
Ah, the Desert Fox, legendary.
Yep, during the battle for Kuk, Rommel was given what seemed like an impossible mission, but he was able to exploit every tiny advantage
To gain momentum.
and ultimately capture thousands of enemy soldiers.
So Rommel wasn't just lucky or some tactical genius.
He was systematically turning small wins into bigger ones.
Now, the chapter also talks about supporting arms. Naval gunfire, bombs, mortars.
These can create those initial cracks, those opportunities. Think of a well-placed artillery barrage disrupting enemy lines.
That's when you strike.
Right on. Now let's talk about how to translate those advantages into gains.
So we're talking consolidation, exploitation, and pursuit.
Let's break those down. Consolidation is about securing the ground you've taken, digging in. It's like claiming a hilltop.
Got it. You're not advancing, but...
But you're making sure the enemy can't take it back.
Okay, consolidation, securing what you've got. But exploitation, that's where things get interesting.
Absolutely. This is where you push your advantage as hard as you can, disrupt the enemy's plans, cause chaos. The chapter uses the example of the Army's Tiger Brigade in Operation Desert Storm.
They really tore through the Iraqi defenses.
They did. They used speed, firepower, and their night fighting skills to completely disrupt the Iraqis' ability to resist.
A textbook example of how a good exploitation can cripple an enemy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've covered consolidation, holding your ground, and exploitation, really pushing your advantage. What about pursuit?
Is that just chasing down a fleeing enemy?
It's more than that. Pursuit is relentlessly hunting them down with the goal of completely destroying or capturing their forces. Think about General Grant chasing General Lee in the Civil War. Grant never let up, and it eventually led to Lee surrendering at Appomattox.
So pursuit is really about turning a tactical win into a strategic one.
Precisely. You're breaking their will to fight.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes on this is from Confederate General Thomas Stonewall Jackson. Strike the enemy and overcome him. Never give up the pursuit as long as your men have strength to follow.
So a routed enemy, if you pursue them relentlessly.
They can completely crumble.
Now, we've talked about building on an advantage and ways to exploit it. But the chapter takes it a step further with finishing the enemy.
Right, finishing the enemy. It means using all those advantages you've gained and delivering the final blow. But it's not just about brute force.
It takes more than that.
Absolutely. The chapter highlights three key things:
Lay it on me.
an aggressive mindset, understanding the commander's intent, and keen situational awareness. Think of it like a three-legged stool,
Take away one leg.
and the whole thing falls apart.
Okay, so aggression, understanding, and awareness. But what about using reserves in combat? How does that fit into this idea of finishing the enemy?
The reserve. That's a commander's ace in the hole. It's that portion of your combat power that you hold back.
You don't commit them right away.
Exactly. You keep them ready to deploy at just the right moment. It's not just about throwing more bodies at the problem, though.
Right, it's got to be more strategic than that.
Exactly. It's about using those reserves to maintain momentum, or maybe exploit a breakthrough, or even counter an unexpected threat.
So, like a coach holding back their star player for that crucial moment.
That's the idea. And MCDP 1.3, it really stresses having a clear purpose for those reserves, making sure they're properly equipped, knowing exactly when and where to use them.
To maximize their impact.
Right. And the chapter, it dives into some amazing historical examples of reserves being used effectively.
Oh, like what?
Well, one that stands out is General Julian Smith's use of reserves at the Battle of Tarawa.
Tarawa, that was a tough one, right?
It was brutal. The initial assault got bogged down, heavy casualties, fierce Japanese resistance. Things were looking really bad.
So what happened?
General Smith, he realized he needed to make a bold move, so he committed his reserve, the 6th Marine Regiment, to break the stalemate.
And that turned the tide.
Absolutely. The 6 Marines, they landed on the western end of the island, flanked the enemy positions, and launched this devastating assault that secured the victory.
Wow, talk about a game changer. So a well-timed commitment of reserves can completely change the course of a battle?
No doubt about it. And, the chapter, it makes a point of saying that this idea of reserves, it applies to all units, not just those designated as the reserve force.
So any unit could find itself in a reserve role.
Exactly. The battlefield, it's constantly changing. Anything can happen.
So every Marine needs to be ready to adapt, to step up.
Flexibility is key. And it's not just about troops and equipment either.
There are other kinds of reserves.
You got it. Think about things like fatigue levels, leadership, morale, supplies like ammo and fuel.
Those could be just as important.
Absolutely, they can make all the difference.
So it's like you're building up a reserve of willpower, resilience, even logistics.
Exactly. You got to think about the big picture. It all plays a role in exploiting success and achieving victory.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Building on advantage, consolidation, exploitation, pursuit, being a strong finisher, and the strategic use of reserves. Sounds like Chapter 7 is a gold mine of information for Marines.
It really is. And what's great is that these principles, they go beyond just the battlefield.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. These ideas of understanding your commander's intent, maintaining awareness, seizing opportunities, being adaptable, they apply to any challenging situation.
So it's not just military theory, it's practical advice for any leader.
Exactly. Whether you're leading a squad or a business team, understanding these concepts can give you a real advantage.
It's about being proactive, thinking ahead, being ready for anything.
You got it. And at the heart of it all, the chapter is saying decisive victories, they don't usually happen in one big moment.
They're built up over time.
Right. It's a series of smaller victories, each one building on the last, that leads to the enemy's defeat.
Like building a house brick by brick.
That's a great analogy. And the key is recognizing and seizing every opportunity, big or small, to keep moving towards that final goal.
So for our listeners out there, don't just read this chapter, really take it to heart.
Absolutely. Talk about it with your fellow Marines. Think about how you can apply these principles in your own service.
Yeah.
It's about putting it into practice when it matters most.
And this chapter really drives home that Marine Corps focus on decisive action, not just winning, but making sure the enemy can't come back.
Total victory, leaving no doubt. It takes a combination of physical and mental strength, that ability to think ahead, to adapt on the fly, make those split-second decisions that can change everything.
So, like playing 3D chess while running a marathon.
You got it. And that's why understanding the commander's intent is so critical. If you don't get the big picture, you can't take advantage of opportunities or help achieve that final victory.
It's like being a gear in a machine. If you don't know how your part fits into the whole thing, you're not really contributing.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where good leadership comes in. Leaders at every level, they have to communicate the mission clearly, inspire their Marines, and build that culture of decisive action.
So everyone understands the mission, feels empowered to act, and works together toward that common goal.
Exactly. And there's this really interesting point the chapter makes. Even when you're on the defensive, there's always a chance to go on the offensive.
Wait, how does that work? How can you be on the offensive while defending?
Well, even in a defensive position, you can always look for opportunities to counterattack, disrupt the enemy, seize the initiative. It's about finding those moments where they're vulnerable, turning the tables. That's where a well-prepared reserve can be so valuable.
So even when you're on the back foot, you're always looking for that chance to strike back, like a judo move, using their momentum against them.
Exactly. That's what makes the Marine Corps so tough. They're always looking for that knockout punch, no matter the situation. But this idea of finishing the enemy, it's not just about tactics. The chapter ties it back to the Marine Corps' core values: honor, courage, and commitment.
So winning the right way.
Absolutely. That aggressive mindset, the drive to be a strong finisher, it takes real courage, both physical and moral. It takes guts to press the attack, to take those chances, to face the enemy head on. But it also takes honor, to fight fair, to treat prisoners with respect, to uphold those high standards, even in the heat of battle.
And that commitment, that dedication to the mission, to your fellow Marines, that's what helps you push through the toughest challenges.
Never giving up, never backing down, always striving to be the best. That's what sets the Marines apart. It's not just the training and the equipment, it's that deep commitment to something bigger than yourself.
And I think these insights, they go beyond just the Marines. Anyone in a leadership position facing challenges, they can learn from these principles.
I agree. Whether you're leading a platoon or a business team, understanding these concepts can give you a real advantage. recognizing opportunities, taking initiative, pursuing your goals relentlessly.
These principles we've talked about today, they're about more than just winning wars. They're about winning at life, being proactive, being adaptable, pushing yourself to be better.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive into MCDP 1 to 3, Chapter 7, remember this: exploiting success and finishing. It's not just a chapter title, it's a mindset. It's about taking those opportunities, turning small wins into decisive victories, achieving your goals. Keep those lessons with you, Marine and Semper Fi.